How's it going on Wednesday, April 12th, 2023? Episode number 600. How about that? Ken Arzone here, Vista, California, talking baseball. This 600th episode, I want to focus on batting average. It's my favorite baseball record. A person's batting average. What have they done for their baseball career? Now I want to focus on Hall of Fame baseball players. 169 of them I have ranked 1 through 169. Who's number 1? You should know if you're a baseball historian, baseball fan. Ty Cobb, 366. I consider him the greatest hitter of all time. That's different from being the best baseball player of all time because you can have consistency, you can have all around skills, you can have the impact on the game. Who's the greatest baseball player of all time? You got to go with Babe Ruth because of his impact, because of his skills, because of all the records, and because of his dominance. You have to say he's the best baseball player of all time. He had pitching skills, he had the home run skills, had the batting average skills, had a lot of walks, a lot of runs batted in. He holds records that are unmatched in baseball history. But as far as the greatest hitter of all time, you got to go with Ty Cobb, 366. Why? 12 batting titles. Who else can lay that claim? Nobody else. I've got his stats here on Baseball Reference. Starts in 1905 and goes through 1928. 24-year career. What impresses me about Ty Cobb is that for out of 24-year career, 23 years over 300 batting average. His first year, he batted .238. He only had 165 at bats, had 41 games. So he bats .238, 1905. He's 18 years old. But then age 19 in 1906, he bats .316. And for the next 23 consecutive years, never falls below 300. Remarkable. Who else can lay that claim? And listen to this. His third year he bats, or his second year he bats .316, okay. But his third year he bats .350 and gets 212 hits. So he's 20 years old. He's legitimate. He's iconic. 212 hits and bats .350. Then he goes on a tear. 324, 377, 382. Then in 1911, he bats .419. His first 400 season. That year, he gets 248 hits. Following year, he bats .409. Back-to-back 400 hitting seasons. 1911 and 1912, two 400 seasons. Then the following year, he bats .389. So he comes 11 points short of making it 3 in a row. Then he goes .368, .369, .370, .383, .382, .384. So he's in the 380s. He's over .350 every year almost. Then in 1922, he bats .401, a third time batting .400. Remarkable. Then he goes .340, .338, .378, .339, .357, and his last year, he's 41 years old. He bats .323. So his lifetime batting average, 366, and ends up with 4,189 hits. You've got to give it to Ty Cobb. 12 batting titles, 366, number one. Nobody has gotten that high. You may say some of the Negro League players had good batting averages too, but we don't know about their stats and we don't know how many games they played in a season because it's a little sketchy. So I can't count their stats. They're not on the Baseball Reference as far as how can we prove it. I wish those Negro players had played along with Cobb and Hanson and all those guys. And maybe some of those guys could have broke 366. Maybe. We'll never know, will we? Next on the list, who's number 2? Roger Hornsby. 358. Lifetime batting average. But he ends up with 2,930 hits. But he was a quality hitter too. He had a stretch 5 years where he averaged 400. A 5 years period. He bats, listen to this, 1921 he bats 397. Just short of 400. So what did he do the following year, 1920? 1922. So 1921, 397. 1922, he bats 401. That was almost back-to-back 400. 397, 401. What does he do the following year? 384. Then he goes, hey, enough of this. 1924, he bats 424 with 227 hits. The year he batted 401, 1922, he gets 250 hits. Whew. So 1924, 424, and then the following year he goes 403. So he has a back-to-back 400, just like Cobb. And he has 3 400 batting seasons. Ends up 358 lifetime, 2,930 hits. If I was Hornsby, I would have played another year to get over 3,000 hits. What's the matter with Hornsby? 70 hits shy? I don't know about Hornsby there. All right, you know who's number 3, right? Who's number 3 as far as career batting average? He has to be in the Hall of Fame. Ed Delante, 346. This is a strange character, this guy. I've got his list on Baseball Reference. You know he died at 35 years old? Something to do with Niagara Falls. He was on a train, got kicked off, walking on the tracks. Either he got pushed, or he fell off, or jumped off himself. Ed Delante, but his career batting average, 346, number 3 all time. He ends up with 2,597 hits, but here's the thing. Cobb played over 3,000 games. Hornsby about 2,200. But Delante only 1,837 games. Yet he gets 2,500 hits. He was on a pace for 3,000, maybe 4,000 hits. If he plays another 4 or 5 years, he played 16. How about Delante's batting average? He breaks 400, 1894, 405, has 200 hits. The following year, he bats 404. Back-to-back 400 hitting seasons. Same with Cobb, same with Hornsby. They did back-to-backs. And then later on, in 1899, he bats 410, his highest. And he has 3 400 batting seasons also. So not only Cobb with 3, Hornsby with 3, Delonte has 3 400 batting seasons, ends up 346 lifetime. Who's number 4 on the list? Batting average in the Hall of Fame. Tris Speaker, 345. I've got him on my baseball reference. "22 years in the league, 2,700 games, legitimate. And he gets 3,514 hits. Tris Speaker, quality hitter. 345 lifetime. But the thing about Speaker, never batted over 400 in a season, like Cobb, Hornsby, and Delonte. He has his high 386. And he had another 383 batting average. But 345 lifetime for Tris Speaker, got to give it to him. And I like the 3,500 hits. See, Delonte had 2,500. Speaker has 1,000 more. But Speaker has about 900 more games than Delonte. Delonte was on pace. Speaker, he fulfilled his pace. 2,700 games, 3,500 hits. Amazing. Who's next? Who's number 5 as far as batting average in the Hall of Fame? Billy Hamilton. This is an interesting guy, too. Let's look at Billy Hamilton. "14 years in the league. Come on, Billy. You got to play 20 years, 22. So 14 years, 1,594 games. And he accumulates 2,100 hits. But his lifetime batting average, 344. What's unique about him, Billy Hamilton? He had a 400 hit season. He hit 1894. He batted .403 with 225 hits. He also had a 389 and a 380. Think about Billy Hamilton, if you can compare him with Cobb, Hornsby, Delonte, and Speaker. He only played 14 years, where the other guys played longer, and he only had 2,100 career hits. But he ends up 344. Quality hitter. Who's next? Ted Williams, the Splendid Splinter. 344 lifetime batting average. So he ties Hamilton. But let's look at Teddy Ballgame. 19 years in the league, but he only has 2,200 games. Man, I wish he had 3,000 games, because he would have ended, because he ends up with 2,600 hits, over 2,600. He was on pace for 3,000, maybe 3,500, maybe 4,000 if he extends his career. But what happened with Teddy Ballgame? 3 years in the military in his prime. At age 24, 25, and 26, he goes into the military, his prime years, and misses those 3 years. Let's say he averages about 180 hits. Let's say 180 times 3 years. That's another 500 hits. He has 2,654. So he's over 3,100 if he has those 3 years. And if he plays maybe 21, 22 years, he could get close to 3,500 hits, just like Speaker. Teddy, 400 batting season. You know the history. You know it. 1941. He bats .406. Last guy to do it. 1941 until the present. Teddy Ballgame. .406. He also had a 388. So he could have had a second 400 hits. 400 batting season. Quality hitter. What's unique about him if you compare him with Cobb, Hornsby, Delonte, Speaker, and Hamilton? What's unique about Teddy, 344 batting average, 521 home runs? The other guys, Cobb hits 100, Hornsby hit 300, Speaker around 100, Delonte 100, and Hamilton maybe 50, right? That's all the home runs. So Ted Williams has the combination of batting average and home runs. How many guys can lay claim to that? Who's next? Dan Brothers, 342 lifetime. Let's look at Dan. 19 years for Dan Brothers. 1,600 games. They didn't play as much games because he starts in the 1880s. So they don't play as many games. They don't play 154 games. He only plays about his first couple of years, 60, 80, 90 games, then 100 games. The most games he ever played in the season, 152. So he ends up with 2,300 hits, but his lifetime batting average, 342. Dan Brothers. His high, looks like his high was about 374. Never got to 400. So he's unique. Who's next? Number 8, Babe Ruth. Did you know he had a lifetime batting average of 342? The Babe. So Babe plays 22 years, but his first 5 he's pitching. So you could say 16 years of stats. But then in 1925, he plays half the season, 98 games. So you could say 15 and a half years, right? I'd say about 16 years, because 1918 he played 95 games. 1925 he plays 98. And then his last year, he only played 28. So you can say that Babe Ruth played about 16 years and had 2,800 hits in 2,500 games. But remember, he's pitching 5 years. Give Babe Ruth a solid 22 years in the big leagues. He's over 3,600 hits, maybe 3,700. And he has a 342 lifetime batting. His high batting average, 393. Never got to 400. He's probably telling himself, I wish I had a 1-400 batting season, but they walked him too much. So he couldn't get over the hump. 393 is pretty good, though. And he has the combination of power and batting average. Him and Ted Williams are the two guys that lay claim. Over 500 homers with Ted, 521. Ruth, 714 homers. Ted Williams, 344. Babe Ruth, 342. So you got to give it up to Babe Ruth. Not only a slugger, struck out a lot, but 342 lifetime. That's a stat I don't think people realize as much, that how good a baseball player he was, and that he missed 5 years of stats because of pitching. Number 9, Harry Heilmann. Interesting guy here. 342 for Harry Heilmann. 17 years, 2,100 games. I wish he had more games. But he ends up with 2,600 hits. Give him another 3 or 4 years, he's over 3,000 hits. And he ends up 342 lifetime batting average. Very good. And Heilmann can lay claim. He had a 403 batting average one year, 1923. He also had a 394 and a 393 and a 398. It's possible that Harry Heilmann could have had 400 batting seasons. He had one, then he had a 398. Oh, that's a heartbreaker. That's 400 there, because he probably got robbed during the year. he had a 394, and then he had a 393. If those four turn out to be 400 batting seasons, he would lay claim as the only person in the history of baseball to have 400 batting seasons. Cobb, Hornsby, and Delonte lay the claim that they have 3. Williams 1, Hamilton 1, Heilmann 1. Interesting guy, Harry Heilmann, 342 lifetime. He's number 9. And then number 10, I'm just going to cover the top 10 of batting average. Willie Keeler. He is interesting too. 19 years in the league, 2,100 games. He needs more games. Why? Because he ended up with 2,932 hits in 2,100 games. 341 lifetime batting average. He is 68 hits shy of 3,000. If I was Willie Keeler, I would say, hey, I want to keep playing to get to 3,000. Why did he stop? Keeler has a 424 batting average on his resume. 1897, 239 hits. So Keeler can lay claim that, hey, I have a 400 also. He also had a 386 and a 379. So Keeler, he's in the top 10. 341 lifetime. He fell short of 3,000 hits by 68. 2,100 games. See, the games are the key. Cobb had over 3,000. But Hornsby, 2,200. Delonte, just about 1,800. Some of the other guys, Williams and all these guys, they're not playing enough games. Ruth played 2,500. So as far as batting average, my favorite baseball record. What do you think of this top 10? Cobb, 366. Hornsby, 358. Delonte, 346. Tris Speaker, 345. Billy Hamilton, 344. Ted Williams, 344. Dan Brothers, 342. Babe Ruth, 342. Harry Heilmann, 342. And rounding out the top 10, Willie Keeler, 341. What do you think? Are these the best and the greatest hitters of all time? Yes. These top 10. Look at the batting average. Look at how many games. Look how many hits. That's 1 through 10. Next episode, we're going to cover more on the batting average. I want to get through all 169 and analyze and look at the players. It may take a while, but that's why Ken Arzone is here talking baseball. Thanks for looking. I'm out.